Okay, is there a point when sex is too soon? And I'm talking about between two um, consenting and sound minded adults. So I went out on a date recently, first date with with a with a young lady, and we had a great time. We did not have sex; things got very involved. I'll leave it at that. But as we were talking, it's been some weeks later, and we kind of laughed about it because it was like, what a first date. Where do you go from there, sort of thing. Um, and then we were saying like it had all of these components, but the actual act of sex, and even it had that had happened, I think we both agreed that it was not like the worst thing in the world because of the chemistry. We were clicking, we were having a great time. There was like no drugs involved. We had a little wine, but all things considered, it was just a very fair exchange of our time, energies, and attentions. So is there a point where sex becomes too quick? For this particular instance, I would almost say no, but I can certainly understand where a lot of people would say yes. So this doesn't necessarily become like my philosophy, it's more just like a general question. But I guess it's always a pairing of people. What happens between two people who are of sound mind? Neither one of us were coming into this as fresh off of a split from somebody, so it had no rebound sort of context to it. For both of us, it had been a I guess what would be called a fair amount of time from the last partner. Hers was definitely like longer than mine, but so it in that context also. Okay, so we could break our fast, so to speak, or our streaks or whatever, and end the drought. But if not, that was not a big deal either. Neither one of us walked away as we talked feeling that we were either pushed into something or kept from something. It was just right for what we made it at that moment. But for other people, is sex too soon at times? Does it skew the psyche of what you are expecting in the relationship, or at least does it for one person? Because I think we all have been there on one side of the coin or other, where you may have hooked up with somebody and immediately one person thinks that it means more than it does, and the other person might actually be regressing, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just did that. So when is it too soon? Do people have these 30, 60, 90-day rules? We need to go on a certain amount of dates first. My question to that is, if you adhere to those, when you come across somebody where the chemistry's right, everything is clicking in that moment, does that put a does that like pull an e-brake on the progress of things that could go? Doesn't necessarily mean that sex has to be the deal breaker when it comes to being with somebody, but sometimes it may send a mixed message, like, hey, I thought everything was great. Maybe not. Or is that something that do we need to put those intentions out first? Look, I don't intend to hook up first date, but to be fair, I've heard that in life as well, and then you know you hooked up the first time. So when is sex too soon? And I think that's just an internal thing that we can or would look at within ourselves, not necessarily as an expectation from the other person, just to say, wow, on a very biological level, I'm attracted to this person. And I kind of laughed because as we were joking around, I think the young lady I was talking to thought I was saying I was just there for the pleasure part of it. I said, no, I said, it's not that. I said, but that's what we're here for. And she's like, what do you mean? That's where I kind of explained. I said, we're here, on levels that we don't even understand a lot of times. We're here to continue the species. So as we as humans have treated sex recreationally, it's really still speaking to the continuing of the people, so to speak. Doesn't mean that we have to have kids every time out. Lord knows we don't mean that. but we're still acting on levels that animals act on in a lot of ways, because not all animals are as recreational like humans are. So there's something to be said for that. But it's an interesting topic, something that just came to mind. What does the time frame mean, and when do we always apply it? Do you have a hard fast rule for it, or do you say, oh, this is a person I could bend these rules for, or this is a person I would never bend these rules for? And then there's also that to be considered. um, I've also heard the logic, or the statement that you really shouldn't be going out on a date with somebody that you don't find sexually attractive. Not necessarily meaning that you would have sex with them the first time out, but so does that in itself send a mixed message that yes, because we know what a date means? Or do you relegate it to breakfast or lunch, because dinner, as we know, seems to have a more romantic connotation to it? So that's also another interesting aspect to sex too soon, or just introducing sex at some point. Do you go even give somebody the seed of thought that this could turn sexual if you are not sexually attracted to them? I think most people would not go that route, but then there's also a lot of people who are users and say, well, I'm just going to go do this for a free dinner or just a shot and see, if it works out. But most of the time, I think most people don't do that. But it's just another uh, talking point to introduce into the conversation. So without asking people to put their private business out there, is there a point in your life? I know there's definitely been a point in my life where sex came early on, and it's been, in some cases, to the benefit, in a lot of cases, it's been to the detriment. So we can't always see what the other people are going to do or how they're going to react as a result of it. But for the most part, I don't feel like there was something regretful about it. Um, and I know in my personal case, my words, especially for women who felt like, wow, I don't want to be seen as loose for doing that so soon. My thing is, I always say, well, I was there too, so how can I judge that? But I know in a societal sense, we don't have, it's a double-edged sword. There's a double standard that women are looked at as easy and men are looked at as heroic for early sex. So just thoughts, just thoughts. I would love to hear people's comments. I don't, what questions I could answer, I certainly could try to, and or concerns just about it. I would say in all aspects, just understand, be safe, be practice what it's going to take to maintain good health, mind, body, and soul. So we're not just jumping in and out of beds with people to skew our psyche, possibly wreck our physical, and definitely damage our spiritual and our soul about that. So remain healthy where those things are concerned. And pick wisely, pick people who you know to connect with. I will say that's the other thing. People that I have connected with early in a sexual sense are people that I may not have met right away. So I'm not talking about go out to dinner, go out to the club, and bam. What I'm talking about is people that I've met with, had possibly weeks of extended conversations with, great conversations on the phone, all this and that. So you've put a lot of pieces into place before actually physically meeting, and so therefore there's a great familiarity, knowing about their background, their children, their jobs, their things like that. So that's been a great benefactor or ally when it came to that. And so I think it took a lot of that sort of, oh, I can't believe I did that, sort of out of the mix. And as I've matured and grown older, I also understand that these are just happenings between adults. And again, when it's two consenting, sound-minded people, then I find no crime in that. And I find no crime in somebody also saying, no, I'm going to wait. There's either way. It's your life. It's your judgment. These are just thoughts that I've kind of put out there. So I would love to hear, again, your questions, comments, concerns in the comments. Please understand that Following, liking, subscribing, sharing any of this content is free and appreciated. Guys, I'm going to leave it at that. Have a fantastic day. Peace, love, unity, solidarity.